So last week talking about Steve-O's breath, his bad breath, it sort of made me think of my own. And it sort of made me just a little more I'm always self-conscious about whether or not my breath smells. I don't know if that's something that ever enters your mind or not, but for me, like I'm always, ever since I was young, I've kind of worried, like, I hope my breath doesn't smell bad enough the person I'm talking to will smell it. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I definitely do. It's definitely a concern. I think when you notice someone else's, the immediate reaction is this what I'm doing to everyone?
Yeah, is that how I am? Because like I brush my teeth, right? I'm not going to claim to be the best at all of that. I do not go to the dentist regularly. I haven't been in a very long time, but I brush my teeth at least once every day. And I know you're supposed to do it more than once. I will at least brush my teeth once a day. And there's obviously things you can do, but what's scary about having bad breath is like if you just randomly realize, oh, I think I have bad breath, there's nothing you can do about it in the moment, right? I don't just carry around Tic Tacs or like, a little mouthful. I don't do that. I don't think that many people do. That reminds me, one of my favorite things to do for if you're scared of bad breath. Did you ever have those Listerine breath strip things?
The pocket packs?
Yeah,
yes.
they come out and they like melt on your tongue. It's like a fruit roll up that melts on your tongue, tastes like mint.
Yes.
I still think, I don't know if you can buy those anymore or not. I don't see them anywhere, but I also haven't looked.
I bet they're available, but just not popular.
Because I feel like they went through a time, like, I remember thinking, like, oh, I would love to try those. And then I got some, and you try them, and they're, like, super potent. I'm sure they do help your breath.
If you leave them in the car when it's hot, they all melt together, and then it's like a Mega 7 layer.
You gotta get quite a dose of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. But I still think about those. And like, truly, even since I was young and had those, I've always been self-conscious about that. In fact, just the other day, I was in the car with Kirsten and I said, hey, I feel like my breath smells. Can you try to smell? And I like looked at her in the car and I talked like really breathy. And I was like, can you smell it? And she's like, I'm not doing that. If it smells bad, I don't want to smell it. And then we kind of got to the place where she's like, no, I'm pretty sure it's fine. I'm pretty sure you're fine. So I'm pretty sure I was fine. Pretty sure I always am, but I don't know. And to be honest, if I'm not, I don't really want you to tell me. I don't know. It's something that kind of, I'm thinking about it all the time. And just recently, like this past week, I saw an article that was backed up by science. They were quoting scientific things, and I'm pretty sure it isn't fake, that says that if you hold in your farts, it can cause the smell to come out of your mouth instead.
Oh, no.
Well, I think it's all connected enough, right? And there's like gases and stuff, right? I don't know if it's true. I think it is, though, because I'm pretty sure I looked into it a little more than just that article. It seems like it has some valid things to back it up. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I know that's nuts, kind of hilarious. Makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. It also makes me, I know it's not the only reason people's breath smell, but it makes you feel like you know a secret about that person whose breath does it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're not letting them out. You know what I'm saying? But one thing that I now know is that if holding in farts is the only reason that does make your breath smell bad, I should always be minty fresh.
Welcome to the Factoid Podcast. You didn't ask for it, but we're going to tell you about it anyways. My name's Payton Gessel.
And I'm Chris Humphreys.
Chris, I've been working on documenting my family history over the past year. This is probably just the next step into transforming into my dad, I would say. And he's been doing this for decades at this point. He has this giant shelf in his house full of 3-ring binders with just last names of people written on them. And it is very extensive and it's very dense. And I would say that it's, he's covered a lot of ground in the years, but one of the areas that is a little bit challenging for him is when you go across the pond, going back several hundred years into different countries and stuff. So I decided to help figure out where in Germany the Gessels come from. So I've spent about half a year working on this, and I thought I knew the town. But the other day, I started spelling the name kind of differently and trying some different searches, and I found out it's a completely different town than what I thought. And by the time this airs, I will have visited there, and it's really good that I found this out in time where I would have went to the wrong town. Basically, the way I found this is that I found that like this church had turned 400 years of membership information that was written in some sort of old book, or probably several books, and they turned it into this massive spreadsheet. So it has about like a dozen columns on it for like birthdays, death day, marriage, what your parents' names and stuff, and then 5,000 rows. This thing is massive. So like I searched the last name Gessel, and there are 600 results on it. And the good news is that I finally found the Gessels, and I found where they're from. And the bad news is that this is a ridiculous amount of information for me to parse to try to like trace back to understand of like, well, who's related to who and how does this work? Everyone is named Johann. Which Johann am I looking for? And it was in that moment that I wished I was a little bit better with spreadsheets. And since I'm not as good at that, I had to just kind of brute force it and find the info that I needed. And even though I knew it was going to take longer, be less efficient, like it's just what I had to do. And I would have loved to learn how to just better extract that information, manipulate it in ways, and kind of, really help visualize that data and come up with some cool, just like points about, make a chart out of it or something. And I'm glad now because I think I finally found a community who would probably be able to help me get better at those skills. And I am talking about the world of Microsoft Excel Esports.
No, really?
Yes, they have an esports community.
Wow.
So most people are familiar with Microsoft Excel in one way or another. Probably you took a class in school, or you use it for your job, or one of the off-brand alternatives, the Numbers, Google Sheets. They're all pretty much the same at this point. And it's hard for me to imagine a world before spreadsheets. Like you had to write everything down, and the equations didn't solve themselves.
Or math on your own.
Yeah, you have to write the number in two spots if you want to move to like use it somewhere else.
And you know how you had to sort it? You had to cut every little cell out and move it. There's no way you couldn't sort.
Write the whole thing again.
Oh my goodness,
it is crazy.
I've never really thought about it, but it's making me upset thinking about it.
Yeah, like the amount of the businesses don't have to think about these kind of things now. I'm sure that is truly a big time saver. And I saw a meme a few years ago that when people turn 18 years old, they have to choose a job in one of two fields. They either have to choose a job where they breathe poison all day or look at spreadsheets all day. And I would say that, out of the two, I probably am reading the spreadsheets and not really breathing the poison.
That's right.
And for anyone that doesn't know much about esports, they're basically competitive multiplayer video games that are specifically meant to be played regularly at tournaments and kind of resemble a physical sport. You're not really doing a lot of physical activity, but the competition is the part where it's similar to those sports. And a lot of people might associate a game like League of Legends or Fortnite or Overwatch with esports. And I'm sure that spreadsheet software does not come to mind immediately. But for you nerds that do understand esports, these guys are completing over 200 actions a minute. And sometimes they're doing that without a mouse. Full keyboard. There are anti-mouse purists that they're like, I don't use a mouse. I'm getting all these actions. I know every keyboard shortcut. I don't even need the mouse. And I mean, that is around the level that like a professional StarCraft player would be doing actions per minute wise. And I think my biggest question when I learned about this was just understanding, what the heck do you even do?
Yeah.
And most of the scene is run by an organization known as the Financial Modeling World Cup. And this was started by a guy in Latvia named Andrew Grigoljunovic, who came up with some financial exercises to help students study for exams. So the financial modeling world, that's not like modeling clothes or things like that. This is modeling in like forecasting the future of a company's finances. So he was making these little like games and tools to help people learn how to do that and do those financial modeling. But then eventually they decided, well, this is kind of fun. What if we took the business part? What if we just stop pretending this is related to businesses at all, and let's make it just weird and fun? And that is where the Microsoft Excel World Championships started in 2022.
Wow.
And
recent.
Yes, very recent. And this was aired on ESPN
No way.
as part of the Ocho. Do you know what the Ocho is? I'd heard the term, but I didn't understand what it is. But I guess it started off as a joke. I think a joke from the movie Dodgeball, if I remember correctly. But the idea is that there will be like once a year, ESPN will just air weird, dumb sports. And they will just find like the strangest things. And it's like, this is funny that we threw a budget at, some sort of sport that's not a sport that they come up with. So in 2022, the Microsoft Excel Esports got broadcasted live from Las Vegas, from the HyperX Arena. It's inside of the Luxor Pyramid.
Okay.
And what's funny is that's actually where the Kobayashi and Chestnut competition took place as well. So it seems like they only do weird events in this venue. But
it's kind of a cool place, the Luxor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So this brought a lot of exposure to the scene that it otherwise wouldn't have had. And now that Excel, has broken off into its own thing, it's not tied to the financial modeling, that like because of that, these competitions are able to get really weird and just really wild. So the basic format is that you are given a scenario and you're given a list of 50 questions that total up to 1,000 total points. And your goal is you have 30 minutes to answer all of the questions, or as many of the questions as possible. If someone gets all 1,000 points, they are immediately crowned the winner. And if nobody gets 1,000 points, it's whoever got closest. And sometimes these competitions are so challenging that it's not even close. Like there was one big one where the winner got 8 out of 1,000 total. So these are not all a cakewalk, and it can get very complicated to even answer the questions correctly. And because there were times when you're getting towards the end and you have all these fields you have to fill out and to answer questions, there's a very common strategy is to just start guessing if you're at the end. But because of, these are Excel nerds, they are going to not just put random numbers in, they're going to use the rand between function, and they're going to make Excel generate numbers between whatever range you tell it to. And every once in a while, someone will get a correct answer from a rand between.
I love that they use Excel to do their guessing. I think that's fascinating.
Right. Absolutely. And just to show you how complicated some of these like scenarios and challenges are, here's one that I watched that was called Knights and Warriors. So the idea is that you're the advisor to this medieval king and you're about to fight a war, and you have to determine the outcome of the war based on certain variables and factors. And there are different character classes for the different units that are fighting. Everyone has different hit points, and everyone fights turn-based. The way they attack, they have cooldowns on their attacks, and so on and so on. And then the questions might be something like, well, if you have 200 archers and 100 infantrymen, and the other country has 300 infantrymen, how many total hit points will your army have at the end of the 7th turn? Something that, it's clear that you aren't going to just be able to guess this stuff for the most part. And I think this is the fun part for me, is that you have to have a strategy or you will never do well at competitive Excel esports. And the questions usually start easy. So you might start to think at the beginning, like, well, I can do some simple math in my head. I can just like come up with these answers. And then you very quickly realize like, oh no, a novice is going to get totally shot down at that point. And you have to leverage the power of Excel to truly be good at the esport. And you basically just have the question answer. You have Excel answer this stuff for you. And my favorite part is that you just get to lay the correct groundwork in your sheet to be successful. And I feel like I relate to this personally, sort of at my job. So one of the problems that I run into when I'm making like a motion graphics animation, and sometimes these can get really complicated, and my progress is not very linear. So I might spend a few hours, we'll say I spend 10% of my hours working on that project. I might not be able to show someone something that looks like 10% done of the work. It might look like 2% done, but it's because I had to build everything in a certain way that allows me to create something better in the end. Eventually, it'll look like I'm making no progress at all, and then I'll just shoot up, I change a couple things at the end, and bam, it looks like super nice and polished. And that is frequently what a good Excel esports match will look like. And in some ways, it's kind of fun to see like someone going from last place to first place, but you do have to sit through a bunch of nothing while they're in last place. And there's usually a commentator who's really trying to like get the crowd hyped to be like, oh man, here's what he's doing. He's getting there. He's coming. But like you just see him sitting at like 0 points and it's been 10 minutes.
That's funny.
But then eventually like you get to 20 minutes and he goes from 0 to 700 and then like the crowd goes wild and stuff. So I've been, this has been very fun to learn about Excel through kind of watching the esports. And it might take me a few months to learn, but my goal is to learn a bunch of equations, find some ways to manipulate all that data that I got about my ancestors. And I would say that if you're looking for something to watch that's really weird, really confusing, and maybe fall asleep to for about an hour in December, you should check out this year's upcoming Excel World Championship.
I don't know about you, but for me, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure it's true for you too, in order for us to do something we don't want to do, we sometimes might reward ourselves with something that's good, right?
Yep.
So for instance, say I really don't want to go to a doctor's appointment out of town. It's a type of appointment. I've had some of these recently, GI-related appointments. You never really know what you're going to get into. They make you sign this sheet that says, hey, we'll have this, I think they call them chaperones in the room in case we get into a thing that, you know what I'm saying?
I had a friend who was the chaperone.
Yeah.
She would do it on Wednesdays every once in a while, and she would refer to them as Butthole Wednesdays.
That's right. And it's just one of those things where it's like, man, seeing that that's an option at this appointment, I just don't want to go to it. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be like, but I'll be like, you know what? It's not in my town. It's in a nearby place that has a restaurant I like. So I will make sure I'll go to the appointment I don't want to go to, and then afterwards I'll get, Chipotle or whatever, right? And be living in a place with no restaurants, it's easy for me to get motivated by restaurants.
Sure.
But I think that's a common thing that we all do. I really don't want to clean the house, but when it's done, I'll sit down and I'll crack open a nice can of Coke in the clean room, whatever, right? I think we always do this. Whatever it is that we're doing, if we don't want to do it, we'll reward ourselves with something that we do want. And sometimes, if there's something at the end, if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, if there's something we're looking forward to, we're willing to endure a lot of stuff we don't like, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think as a reader, like I'm willing to, if it's a book that I think is going to end good or that has really great characters, something I really like, I'm willing to even read like half of a book that's not very good to get to the good stuff. I'll say for me, like if it starts out bad, a lot of times I won't finish it. But like if it starts out really good and there's a dry spell and it ends really good, it's like I'm fine with going through the dry spell or whatever, right? The movie National Treasure's always been one of my favorites. Sometimes I get made fun of for it. I don't know. I still think it's a great movie. But like the first scene in that movie has always been boring to me. Like I don't know. It's like the thing where he's a kid and it's like, I just always hate like historical backstory of sometimes it's boring to me. So I always, like as a kid, I would always just start at the second scene. Like but I'm willing to work my way through that first part after knowing, hey, this movie's great. I can watch 10 minutes of stuff I don't care about. You know what I mean? We always are willing to go through stuff if we get to something we want. In fact, there's an event that was put on by a YouTuber I watch occasionally. His name's Ludwig. He's like pretty famous at this point, but he will put on big events all the time. And he put on, it's been probably a year ago, maybe more now, I don't know, but he put on a chess boxing tournament. Have you ever heard of chess boxing?
I don't think so.
So literally, it's exactly what you think. It's a real sport, but basically it is chess and it is boxing. Two things that, in my opinion, not very similar, right? But it's 90 seconds of boxing, 90 seconds of chess. Person who wins is the person who either knocks out the other person or puts the other person into a checkmate, whatever comes first. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do both. You only have to do one. And what's really interesting is there is a real sport for this. So there's people who like do this, that mix it together. But generally, someone's specialty is boxing or chess. Like often you don't find people who are great at both of those things, even in the professional world of that. And in Ludwig's tournament, the same was true, where he would invite people who were great at chess, like practical grandmasters, but maybe they're terrible fighters. And so they're counting on the fact that maybe I can checkmate in 90 seconds so I don't even have to fight, right?
Yeah.
But then he also brought people who are leaning on their fighting ability who hardly know how the pieces move on the chessboard, right? Like I know a pawn can go, they don't really know what's going on. So they're leaning on, hey, I can probably knock him out real quick so I don't have to worry about the chess part.
Yeah, I'm imagining a fight between Magnus Carlsen and like Logan Paul.
Yeah, literally, that's basically what happened. Like on a smaller YouTube, like it's literally that kind of thing. What's fun is like it was in like a boxing arena. They're dressed, they have their gloves on, and like the chessboard would just rise and lower from the middle. I mean, it was super fascinating. All that to say though, like the people who don't care about chess would endure the chess so that they could box, right? In the hope that they could win. People who don't care about or the people who are great at chess, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like you go through what you don't want to do the things you do want to do. And I thought that was super fascinating because it's just a sport that like mixes these two things that don't really seem interesting, but it also widens the audience who watches it, widens the interest in participating in it. I just kind of thought that was a great event. I never would have watched a chess tournament. I have watched boxing here and there as I've grown up or whatever, but like it's not either a thing I'm going to spend much of my time on, but I did, however, watch most of that tournament when it happened.
I think there's definitely a draw to people that like to do like physical activities like that and chess, where I'm a big Cleveland Browns fan, and Amari Cooper is one of the wide receivers for the Browns, and he has been training under this like teenage chess star for several years back when he lived in Dallas. And like, I don't know how it even happened, but like he called up somebody and like, he has this 14-year-old boy like coming over to his house to teach him chess. And now like he's grown up, he's like going off to college, and like he and Amari will just like play online together. And the NFL has started to do like an unofficial or maybe even really official chess tournament that they have every year.
Wow.
And you just have like these big offensive linemen sitting down on a board, and really like sports do have strategy.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of what appeals across them.
I think anything that can draw out like that competitive spirit in you, and chess is definitely that. I'm not good at chess, but I understand it enough to know like if you can really like get an idea and a strategy and like do that, it can be kind of like invigorating.
Yeah.
While chess boxing is interesting, it's not what I want to talk to you about today, but there is one thing that's sort of a mixture of two things that I do want to talk to you about. And this year for me, there's one hobby. I think I've had hobbies that I've held over the years, but there's one hobby for me this year that has sort of been what I've put all my time, all my effort, my resources, my money, my mental energy into this year. And I pretty much spend as much time as I can taking in information about it, watching YouTube stuff about it, and participating in it. Golf. I have golfed. I made a plan to golf 10 times this year. I've golfed more than 10 times this year, which might not seem like a lot. Maybe it does. I don't really know. But all I know is I hadn't really done it much. Like I used to golf. I liked it, but I hadn't played much until recently. I decided I want to try to go 10 times. I want to get back into it. And so I did, and I've loved it. I've gone to the driving range a lot. I've tried to work on my game. I've gone with some people who I've found who like golf. I just have really been enjoying everything about it. I've liked it for years, but I've really gotten into it recently, and I just think about it all the time. And I think we get stuck in this stuff, and like some of it has like some of the lifespans of our hobbies or whatever, they end, and it's like maybe this will end. Maybe it's a year thing for me. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Sure.
But I feel like there's just with everything, there's such a complex depth that you can get into. Like I've gotten better, significantly better this year.
Yeah.
But I can get so much better. Like I'm not a good golfer. Like by anyone's standards, I'm still not a good golfer. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's just making a goal to go 10 times was like, will I be interested? Will I actually go? And I have. And I think I will continue to do that. But I've just been watching and YouTube and playing and learning and like reading and studying and trying to figure out how to get better. And there's another thing that a lot of people are into. Probably a similar community size, maybe, I don't know, maybe bigger, maybe small. I don't really know, but a lot of people are into. A lot of people, they travel for it. There's competition involved. They train for it. They have places that they dream to go to do it. But it's a thing that I could not dislike more. I love golf. This thing I just hate with every fiber of my being. There's nothing I like about it. There's nothing I would rather do less in the whole world. But there's a lot of people who disagree with me. Running. Have you ever tried to run? It's hard.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like run while golfing.
No, just run.
Oh, little bit here and there.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite thing.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that it's even physically painful for people who do it all the time.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned is like people who run marathons have a hard time running a marathon, even though they've done it before. But it's like, so what would make me want to do that? I run two blocks and I feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders physically. Like it's so hard. And I know I'm out of shape. I know it's because I'm not good, but like I've never liked running. And no matter how much someone who likes running tries to convince me that it releases endorphins and it makes you happy, it just makes me mad and sad and angry. Like I hate running. There's nothing that I would rather do less than run. I hate running. But then I got to thinking, is there anything that I could do that would reward me enough to run? I don't know. I haven't decided if the answer to that is yes or no, because I know it's something that maybe someday I will decide I'm going to run, because I know it's very good for you. Like it's cardio, all that. It's very good for your body. I need to try to take care of my body. Running is a very good thing to do. It's free. You can just literally go outside and run. It's very good for you. Is there anything that could convince me to run? I don't know. What I did, however, discover is that there's an entire professional community of speed golfers, which is literally a mixture of golfing and running. So if anything's going to make it work for me, I would assume that's what it is. And before I even discovered speed golfing, we've talked about this before, YouTube, it finds out what you're going to be interested in, and you fall into these deep holes and you go into these rabbit trails, and you start reading about or watching videos or learning about things you didn't even know existed, yet somehow spent 4 hours watching, right? And so before I even learned there was an official speed golf sport, I stumbled upon a golfer that I watch regularly. They have a channel. It's called the Bryan Bros. They're two brothers. They golf, and most of the YouTube golfers aren't actual professional golfers. They're just kind of personalities who golf that are interesting to watch. They're usually good, but they're not like professional good. But the Bryan Bros are actually, they occasionally will qualify for like professional tournaments and stuff. They're very good golfers. They often will play the same courses as the pros, and they'll just make a video there the week before, the week after, or whatever. They're good. They're not necessarily pros, but if you look them up, they'll have pro stats on the internet. But I saw a YouTube short that said that Wesley Bryan, one of the brothers, played the fastest round of golf in PGA Tour history. And I thought, it's really interesting. I wonder how that came about. And so I kind of looked into it, and it turns out Wesley Bryan wasn't playing super well, and his teammate wasn't playing super well. And how it works in golf is like you get teamed up with a person, and based on like how you do the day before, they'll like make the schedule for the next day. So the better you do, the later you play, right? Yeah. So everyone starts on hole 1 in PGA Tour golf, and like if you're the winner, you're in first place the next day, then you play last. But if you're in last place, you play first. So him and his teammate were set up to be the first tee time of the day, very beginning in the morning. Well, his teammate did bad enough. He got discouraged enough. He decided, I'm not even going. I'm just going to quit. I'm bowing out. And Wesley decided, you know what? I'm not doing very good either. When he found out he was first in line and his teammate dropped out, he thought, let's have a little bit of YouTube fun with this. And so he and his caddy just played as fast as possible, right? He hit it, ran. His caddy would throw him with it. He hit it, make it in the hole, ran, like no stopping, right? And like, what's hilarious is like, this was like on TV. It was a televised event. And like, he was so fast that when he got to like the second half of the last 9 holes, like the cameras weren't set up. Oh, so like he would be like putting on the green, and you would see him putt, and the rest of the frame would just be the ball rolling, and he would miss it or whatever. But like you wouldn't see any of it because the camera, like they were not expecting anyone to have made it that far by the time that he got there. In fact, he made it. He finished his 18th hole. The next closest person was still playing in the middle of the 9th hole. So he finished the entire round before anyone else even played half of a round. And it's very funny because like golf, like professional golf is like kind of like a serious sport. Oh, yeah. Like it's very quiet. You can't make noise. It's got all these like rules and like regulations, and like there's all this like etiquette that you're supposed to know. And so it's just kind of hilarious that like a professional in a tournament decided to just like make something fun. Yeah. And I think it was kind of big news for the scene. And I think it maybe even got people more interested, or maybe made more people stumble into speed golf. Because honestly, normally playing faster is not always better. In fact, taking your time, concentrating, this is important in golf usually. Yeah, I was going to say it's quite the tension you have there between
taking the time to
Yeah.
do it right, but then also having to just sprint.
Right. Like going up and not taking a practice swing is not a good idea. Because like you need to, like, it's just because every place you stand is different. You know what I mean? Like the ball's high, the ball's low, it's a hill, it's rough, it's a fairway. You kind of want to know. So you take a practice swing. When you're playing golf quickly, you don't do that. You just go up and you go and you do whatever happens, right? And so fast play does not always equal good play. In fact, almost never does it equal good play. It usually equals bad play. Fun thing about Wesley Bryan, however, it was his best round of the tournament so far. He shot 2 under par, 69, which is crazy. And I don't, probably just because he was having fun. He wasn't worried about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think tournament play can be stressful. He knew nothing was on the line. He knew he wasn't even probably going to make the cut. He was done, basically. But he had a lot of fun. Wesley Bryan that day shot a 2 under par 69 in a total time of 89 minutes. And you're thinking, maybe those of you guys who don't play golf, 89 minutes seems like a long time. That's almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So for reference, generally, if you're playing a round of golf, even alone, but usually with people, but if even alone, we're talking an hour 30, 40, an hour 50 minutes is normal for 9 holes, for half of a round.
Oh, wow.
So like we're talking, he basically played a round in the time people play half a round. So it makes sense someone will be on the 9th hole, right?
Right.
And so with speed golf, they just take this idea and like put it on a scale, and that's what the whole sport is, right? And so how he would have been scored if this was not just a PGA tour, if it was a speed golf, International Speed Golf Association or whatever score, is you still want the lowest score. That's the goal, because in golf, the lowest amount of shots is the best. But they mix together, they add together the shots you take to the amount of time it takes you to finish, right? So his score would have been 69 plus 89 or whatever, right? Which is, I can't do the math in my head. Should have done it before now, but basically you get it, right? That's his score. In speed golf, even though that is the fastest round ever played in professional golf, that's not a good score. It's not a very good score at all, because he did golf really well, but he played a relatively slow round in comparison to these people, because when you realize that the strategy is to play both good and fast, the easiest thing to make up the most score is to play faster, right? Fast. That's easier. It's much easier to play fast than it is to play good, right? And so there's a ceiling to how good you can do, and there's a ceiling to how fast you can go. The only one that's the one that's easier to make up is the speed. And so this sport, I think, started like a lot of sports where people thought this could be fun to try. I don't think it was a sport. It was like hey, 2 buddies or a guy thinking, I like to run. Let's see how fast I can golf, right? And it's not even a thing. To be honest, like if you go to a golf course, it's not a thing that like it. I don't think it was real welcomed, right? Like,
would you like to play a speed golf round,
right,
today, sir?
Like if it's not a sanctioned thing, like other people around you at a golf course tend to have ideas of how other people should play golf.
Yeah.
So to have someone running around is not necessarily what would be welcomed a lot of places. So it's funny that it ever really happened, but the fact that it did is it's kind of fascinating. But basically, assume somebody who liked to run decided, I want to see how quick I can play. And they're like, I'm a pretty good golfer. Let's just see, right? And it turned into, I wonder how I can play faster, and I wonder how I can optimize my route. Running from hole to hole, because like the way every golf course is laid out differently. You know what I'm saying? So it's like maybe running. We talked about the running, the political thing the other day. Like maybe this route is quicker than this one. Maybe getting to this hole, taking this way is better than I don't know, right? And so they start thinking about all these things. And in golf, you're allowed to have 14 clubs, no more, no less. Like that's well, you can have less, I guess, but everyone has 14, right? Yeah. You're allowed to have 14 clubs. Well, it turns out if you're trying to go fast, carrying around 14 clubs is hard, right? Because you're not allowed to have a caddy. You used to be allowed, it's just you, right?
Right.
And so people start carrying less clubs. And then they realized, you know what else is heavy? The bag you carry the clubs in. And so, in fact, they used to just carry the clubs around. But now there's this like device that's created for this. It's basically like a cylinder with like punch outs where you can stick a few clubs, and they basically will just carry like a driver, a 7-iron, and a putter, and they'll just play the whole thing that way. Like they don't carry putters, so they'll just putt with whatever club they got in their hand.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because you don't want to waste time pulling out a putter and lining stuff up, and like it's comical to watch, but it's interesting to watch, and it makes me think like I'm not a very good runner, I'm not a very good golfer, but I feel like this might make me want to learn how to run. Maybe not, but I would be willing. Like, again, I'm not just going to go to my local golf course and start running around, because I think that's not very welcomed. I think that's not super, I think it might be frowned upon. I don't really know, because still isn't a very big sport, but it is a sport and it's a thing. And so speed golf scores, right? We talked about what Wesley Bryan would have shot in a professional speed golf circuit. Well, the fastest round ever, so this is not the lowest round, this is not the best score in speed golf, but the fastest round ever was actually just done this year, 2024, and it was in like Australia, and Luke Willett shot his round in a total of 36 minutes and 4 seconds. 18 holes, all 18 holes. And I'm going to tell you, like, if you're walking a golf course, if you're not in a golf cart, if you're walking, we're talking sometimes 5 miles you're walking. Wow. So just the running portion can take, 5 minutes a mile, 25 minutes. Like, you're not taking much time to actually hit the ball. And what's even more impressive is he did it in 36 minutes and 4 seconds. His total score ended up being 123, which means he shot an 89, which an 89 is not like a great golf score. It'd be great for me. It's like a good score for me. But like, he did it in 36 minutes. That's like the time it takes. Like, that's less time than it takes to watch an episode of like a Hulu version of an hour-long show on TV.
Oh, yeah.
It's like an episode and a half of Friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's insane that you can even get that far that quick, let alone play a game and do it.
Like running a 5K, but then also being okay at golf.
Yeah, like more than a 5K. It's crazy. But that's, like I said, that wasn't the world record score. That was the world record time. The world record score was by a guy named Mike Williamson, who actually shot a 77, which is like 5 over, which is like a great score for anybody.
Yeah.
And he shot it in 41 minutes. So his score was only 108, which is like, it's amazing. Like, people shoot 108. Like normal people who go golfing once a year shoot 108.
I
right?
think I did about. I think I was above that the last time I golfed.
So like, the fact that adding to his golf score his total time is slightly. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's what's so interesting to me about it is like the golfing is important. You can't golf poorly, but the running is also important because you can't run slowly. And like, of course, there's a lot more room for error with the golf than there is the running. Like, if you run a 10-minute mile instead of a 5-minute mile, it's definitely going to be bad. But like, I don't know. It's a very interesting kink. You got to take into account both of those things. I've never, ever liked running. I told you at the beginning. I don't anticipate ever liking running, but I think I'll always like golf. Will I ever like golf enough to run? I don't know. But if anything does it, I think that might just be it.
Thank you for listening to the Factoid Podcast. If you have a factoid that you want to share with us, send us an email at whatsyours@factoidpodcast.com.
As always, you can find us all the places that you get all your podcasts or on our website, factoidpodcast.com.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.